on the 4K clubs. I know for those of us who studied back in the day, you might be familiar with that particular term and the impact it had towards food security in the country. So the ministry is focusing on this particular approach to actually boost embrace of the concept of agriculture, because we definitely need a mind shift, especially with the youthful population, bearing in mind the average age of a farmer is roughly 60 years, if I'm not wrong. But to tell us the facts as it is, I'm joined in studio by Ann Nyaga, who's the Chief Administrative Secretary at the Ministry of Agriculture, Livestock, Fisheries and Cooperation. A very good morning to you. Thank you for your time. All right, let's start directly. For young viewers who might not be adequately informed about what 4K clubs stood for back in the day, as in the early 90s, talk to us about how instrumental this clarion call was in terms of the role in food security.
Thank you, Jesse. Actually, in 2016, we went around the country and we wanted to understand the challenges that the youth themselves said were facing them from actively engaging in the agriculture sector. In 2018, after our consultations with the youth in all the 47 counties, we launched the Kenya Youth in Agribusiness Strategy. And this strategy highlighted 11 key strategic issues that the youth across board said that were factors that were hindering them from actively engaging in the agriculture sector. Issues such as negative perception towards agriculture, basically how the youth, the children viewed agriculture as a dirty, career option. Issues of inadequate financing or lack of affordable financing, inadequate skills, knowledge and information. Some of these issues came up. And what we have done and are doing as government to be able to facilitate the children and also the youth is now develop programs which are then facilitative to be able to address to these challenges. We all know that the average age of a farmer is, over 60 years old. And that is very risky for any agricultural economy because every day our population is rising. And we have to be able to, be food secure. And even in the wake of COVID, we also what we experienced where nations actually were striving to be self-reliant, to be able to provide for their own population. So then that brings in a need to be able to, be very deliberate to introduce our children to agriculture at a very formative age, so that even as they transition from primary school level, they go to high school. We've developed programs at these very levels, primary school level, secondary school level, and even once they leave the secondary school level, we've also designed programs that can then anchor them further to be able to choose agriculture as a career option. So all this we have done to be able to ensure that we be able to nurture them at very formative ages, but of course presenting agriculture in a form that is exciting for them, and of course being able to take care of the modern day child.
Exactly, because we don't want to leave anyone behind, and the adoption of smart agriculture is definitely the way to go in this current day and age. But what's different about the approach this time round that wasn't implemented before? Because we well know it was vibrant till early 90s until it sort of subsided naturally. I don't know what the causes were. Perhaps you could start with that.
Well, actually, these clubs were very vibrant. Some of us, actually, I am a beneficiary of the 4K clubs. These clubs molded the person that I am today. And why the activities declined back in the 90s is because they would then be used as punishment tools. You'd find yourself making noise in the classroom, or you've done something wrong, and the only way to discipline you was to send you to the school plot to go weed, go water the plants, go and uproot the root stumps. So it started becoming a punishment tool. Also, our parents and also guardians, teachers, anyone interacting with a child back then, they would tell us if you don't study well hard in class, if you don't perform well, you'll then end up being a farmer. So all these factors really made us not want to be part of it. Especially it was very risky for those ones who never used to have an anchor program or an anchor activity back at home. Because some of us were lucky enough to have parents who are practicing agriculture, earning from it. So even though you would get punished in the classroom, when we would go home, we would still find the same activity waiting for us. And from that same activity, when our parents would make their sales, they would, they would buy us a gift using that money, we would get pocket money. So it was very easy to dilute that negative factor. But for some of the children, they were not very, lucky to be in an agricultural setup. So some of that influence became very permanent for them. But now in the wake of revival and the rebranding of the 4K clubs, what we are saying is these clubs will not be used as a punishment tool. And actually, working with the Ministry of Education, we'll be very keen to be able to, monitor what the clubs are doing, and also the kind of activities that are taking place there, and also how the program, the activities are being handled, so that we also don't revert from where we came from. The rebranded version has several aspects, of course, being able to borrow from the past, because, again, we can't really throw, away our past, because it is what makes us as a nation. And what we've done is, even as we rebranded, we were a bit keen to be able to switch the programming a bit, to be able to take care of the modern-day child. So that we will be focusing on 5 thematic areas. We'll have environmental conservation. We'll also have agricultural projects that cuts across crop development, livestock, fisheries. We'll be having healthy living and nutrition, where we want our kids to also focus not only on growing, but also knowing exactly how to consume right, and also why it is important for them to take care of their health. We'll also be having a STEM, that is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. These children have technology, they are quite brilliant, so they just need a platform where they can be able to express their innovation. And also we'll be having civic engagement and citizenship. Again, we want to be able to bring up patriots, responsible children who will be, responsible adults of tomorrow. Also, the programming is also, we'll also be incorporating the positive youth development model, where we are saying we'll use agriculture, of course, along these 5 thematic areas to be able to bring up a holistic child. A child who's confident, who has character, a child who's able to connect with others, a child who's, who's able to make a contribution to their society, so that at least we bring a holistic child through the clubs. Maybe also to add, Jesse, we've also put in a presidential award scheme, where we'll have the best performing club members and the schools being awarded nationally by His Excellency the President, who happens to be our patron to the 4K clubs in the country. And at the county level, the governors will be the patrons in their respective counties. At the sub-county and ward levels, these awards will be conducted by the sub-county and ward agricultural officers. At the institutional level, that is, at the school level, the school patron, of course, in consultation with the patrons, with the principals. And lastly, we've also introduced a regalia system. As you saw during the day of the launch by His Excellency the President, there was a regalia system, if you noticed, Jesse. The President had his own regalia, the governors, and the children themselves. So that is the regalia that will be donned during all the club activities.
And I can see you also branded as well, but that's on the side note. So 5 thematic areas, I can see the approach is definitely sort of different this time round. But talk to me about what more you're doing, because it's not just about sensitizing or changing the mindset of this young, quote-unquote, farmers, if I may call it that, because when they get to high school, they might be looking for other avenues to channel this knowledge. In terms of mentorship, they'll also be looking towards interest-free loans in case they want to pursue a career related to agriculture. Has all this been encompassed as you launched the 4K clubs?
Actually, at the very formative stage at the primary school level, and even when you're looking also at the high school level, and also the youth who are already out of school, to be able to ensure that what happened was not just a launch. We actually want to see these activities implemented, because that is what brings in the actual impact and the actual change that we strive to see. We've actually constituted the youth unit within the ministry, and the work of the youth unit will be to handle all youth affairs within the ministry, from that of a child at the primary school level to the high school level, of course, collaborating and working together with ASK, whose mandate is actually to take care of the young farmers clubs, and also out of school youth who are also being supported through programs such as Enable Youth, so that we can be able to take care of a child once they leave their household, they transition all these stages, and then finally they can be able, once they want to partake of the agriculture sector, they can be then able to find a program that gives them nurturing and also financing.
Okay.
So the youth unit, that would be the work of the youth unit. It has been staffed, and also we have put in place an implementation framework, which of course draws together all the actually six collaborating ministries, because we have the Ministry of Education, Water, ICT, Treasury, Environment, and also now our ministry, the Ministry of Agriculture. So we have an interministerial committee which is chaired by the Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Agriculture, that is Honorable Peter Munya. He chairs that committee, and then instructions are given to the Project Steering Committee, which is composed of PSS from all these ministries. And of course, we also have development partners, because we are saying it is a collaborative effort to be able to support our children. And then now every single instruction goes to the youth unit. Okay. And of course, our counties are very critical, because this is where the implementation takes place. Again, structures are being built also at the county level, so that there's consultation, and then also there's a coordinated implementation.
Well, all hands on deck for this implementation framework. Let's talk about the approach in terms of launching the 4K clubs. Is it in a phased approach? Is it part of the syllabus? Will it be voluntary, or you have to go through the 4K clubs once you're in a public-private school in the country?
We've actually developed a 4K clubs guide manual that will be then guiding the activities, even as we build the capacity of the teachers that will be handling the children. The implementation, of course, since we have over 31,000 schools in the country, we will do it in a phased approach. And basically, what we want to introduce is also the aspect of volunteerism. So we are saying we will build the capacity. Actually, we are targeting between 3 to 5 years to build the capacity of 6,000 teachers, so they can be able to understand the positive youth development model, of course, alongside the thematic areas that we want to focus on, because there's a specific way that we want these teachers to handle these children, because even how we communicate can break or encourage a child to be able to partake of the activity. So once we've been able to put build the capacity of these particular teachers, and of course we want to start in this financial year. Of course, over a period of time, once we build your capacity as a school or a teacher, we then expect you to be able to mentor 5 other schools within your locality. So if you look at 6,000 teachers that we are targeting, and then of course you adopt 5 other schools within your locality, then you train these schools so that eventually we can have all these clubs in the country. So that is the model that we want to focus on. But of course, it's a phased approach. And this is only the beginning, because also the programming keeps on changing, because every day we may want to, deal with another challenge that might come maybe 3 years or 5 years from now. So again, continuous programming, reevaluating of how we want to tweak the programming a bit to be able to address the current day problems.
Okay, that's well noted. I mean, it's all about learning by doing and being part of the solution. Speaking about being part of the solution, how exactly will the policy that has been put in place in order for implementation to be done address emerging issues in the country in this current time and age? We're talking about climate change, food and nutrition security, and the likes. How exactly is this centered to sort of being part of the solution, not contributing to the problem?
Actually, you also how we got challenges, especially with the desert locusts, and of course then COVID came. All these are realities that we are living in. Issues of climate change, these are realities that we are living in, and we have to find a way of surviving them and also dealing with the challenges that we have. But being able to be deliberate to introduce our children to these realities when they are young, so that even as they progress in life, even as they grow, these children will have impacted them with the knowledge that us as seniors in terms of age, and their parents, their teachers, their caregivers, already what we know right now is what we need to instill in them. Issues of climate change, of course, the future is theirs more than it is for someone like me. I'm already in my 30s. But there's a child who's born today, who's 5 years or less. The future belongs to them more, and we need to ensure that we also live and help them also be part of living the country or the environment a better place, because even them, they'll have children tomorrow. So it's more of investing today for the future generations, and it is responsible for each and every person to be able to, give the child what we know as adults right now so that their future can be better. And I know it is the comfort of every parent knowing that even when you're not there, or when you can't afford, you have a child who has the relevant life skills to be able to, tend for themselves, to be able to feed themselves and their generation. So that is the kind of intention that we have for these clubs, and ensure that what we know right now as adults, we break it down to a language that a kid can understand so that they can be able to be progressive in future.
Exactly. Talk about investing in the future. Even as we look at the challenges lying ahead in terms of agriculture, it's not just a need for a mindset change among the youth. We might be talking about better ways to connect those with the knowledge to the market, in terms of finances. So there's a lot to look at. Talk to me about the challenge of inadequate financing and the lack of adequate knowledge and skills when it comes to agriculture. How exactly is the 4K clubs, plugging in between the consumer and the producer?
Actually, at the very formative stage, the intention is to introduce them to all these activities. Of course, the programming at the primary school level will be different from that of the high school level, because these are kids who are already, they are a bit advanced in terms of their thinking, their exposure and all that. Then comes this child who has undergone this primary school level through the 4K clubs, the high school through the young farmers clubs, and then now they are out here, they are my age or less, and they want to partake of the agriculture sector. So the issue of, having had them go through all these stages, they have that knowledge of, I can be able to leverage on this activity as, a career option. But then again, of course, they need to be supported further with incubation. And then this is what translates to programs such as Enable Youth, a program that His Excellency launched on the same day that he was launching the 4K clubs. And why these programs were structured the way they were structured and designed is so that once you transition, you'll always find an activity along your career progression. And with the Enable Youth program, since we have many programs running across the 47 counties, some of them we fund them from a group dynamic. Some of them we fund as an individual, because again, from our consultations, the youth said that some of them did not want to be lumped, as a group. And we understand that, because at times we'll find that there's that one person who will be able to, set up their own enterprise along the agricultural value chain, and then be able to employ 5 or 10 other youth. So what the government has done is, to be able to also take into practice some of these requests and be able to tailor-make programs that can then be able to unlock their potential. And since we have 8 incubation centers that we'll be focusing on, we'll be having actually 520 youth who are already getting into the incubation. Actually, they were getting in immediately when once His Excellency launched the program, they're actually getting into the incubation the following week, so that they can be able to be taken through the trainings and the incubation. Again, we have those ones who are standards. These ones are those youth who they have an idea, but they just don't know where to start. And we already have those ones we call accelerators. Accelerators, they have an idea. They're already doing something. They just need a small boost of, the mentorship, the incubation, developing business plans, knowing how to run a business professionally, and then we give them financing. And also, the other most interesting thing is also to be able to respond to what the youth themselves said that they needed. Is these loans, we are not asking for collateral. We are just giving you the training, you have the knowledge, and then we are comfortable that you'll be able to, do your business well, be able also to pay this loan. So we have various loan facilities. We have an interest-free loan. We also have a 5% facility and also a risk guarantee fund. That then some of them, the ones who don't want to go through these whole processes, they can then be able to get a commercial loan through the commercial institutions. So all these, we have various programs. You'll find that we have programs, maybe just to mention, a program like NARIG or KSAP. These are programs actually in all the 47 counties, actually 46, because Nairobi has a program called the SDSP 2, which focuses mostly on capacity. But these two, the NARIG and the KSAP programs, these programs, we focus on, of course, the group dynamic, but mostly we build the capacity and also give them grants to be able to set up their business enterprises, such that if you don't want to partake of the group dynamic kind of a model, then there's an Enable Youth program that can support you as an individual. But in all of them, we also want to see how is the ripple effect, how do you bring in, how do you support more people? Like through Enable, we want to see, demonstrate to us how do you employ 5 other youth or 10 other youth within your enterprises. And again, we are saying that we want this to be done in a manner that is sustainable so that we can be able to move to another cohort of youth. And the next call for proposal for this youth to be able to, for us to be able to have a second intake, because already we have 520, will be happening in between July and August, so that we can be able to, bring on board other youth, take them through the incubation and be able to onboard others.
How long is the incubation period?
The incubation period, depending on which level you are at, it will be able to be between 3 months or less, and between 3 to 6 months. Some will be less, because if we see that you're partaking of it quickly, you're understanding quickly, we develop, then we have no business retaining you in the incubation centers. The work is to release you, our intention is to release you, we give you financing, then we onboard others so that we can cover more ground.
Okay, that's well noted. As we finalize, because sustainability seems well secure, let's talk about some of the incentives. I know you mentioned the presidential award system, so we can actually bring more. As you mentioned, it's on volunteering basis, so we bring more into the fold, into the foray, for them to get the much needed knowledge as we push towards smart agriculture. Talk to me about the incentives put in place. Is there a regalia system? Because optics, especially in this country, matter a lot.
Okay. I think just the same way we've been profiling sectors, like when we were growing up, we wanted to become engineers, doctors, and all that. It was just as a result of how we profiled that particular sector. And for agriculture, everyone has, everyone eats. We eat all the time. I'm sure even you've had something. You put in something in your mouth before you came here.
Hopefully.
So that's a way. That's a common practice. We all feed to be able to survive, to be able to be productive. And the incentive here is, just being able to, introduce these children to those particular aspects of what we actually know now, and be able to profile the sector in a manner that they will be able to, they want to partake of it. The regalia system, as you saw, His Excellency had his own regalia system, and him being patron to all the 4K clubs means that if you perform well in your club activities, you'll end up having His Excellency the President give you your award. And of course, donning a regalia, which is almost similar to His Excellency, because the way we've designed the regalia is, of course, His Excellency is a bit different because it has 2 golden trips, but for the kids, it's just the same color and also having one common color with only a logo. But just finding that we all uniformed and be able to, get a presidential award scheme, a presidential award from His Excellency the President, that just wants to motivate a child. And also being able to also expand the thematic areas, so that if I don't want to be involved in production, I don't want to rear rabbits, I don't want to grow crops, but I want to, engage in something along the technological line. I want to be involved in engineering. Because what was actually quite exciting is we would see children actually at the launch explaining the relationship between weather and why weather data is important to be able to make decisions, and even analyzing that weather data. So just getting that child, giving them the free space to be able to choose what activity they want to partake of is actually the other incentive. Because what we are saying is, in the 4K clubs, we will not dictate to a child. We will not tell them you have to get into this activity or this one. We are just telling them these are the activities, you have the free hand, choose whatever you want. And our work as technical people and also as the school patrons is just to guide them so that they can be able to unlock their potential. The other aspect also has clearly put by His Excellency the President is the farm produce, the proceeds from these clubs should go to the school feeding program, and the children should be given the first preference to be able to buy, even as to be able to offer or sell to the schools even before we go to explore what the market has. So that one, having the children make a sale, and again we're saying the proceeds. In the manual we've already guided how the proceeds will be used. These proceeds belong to these children. So it is the work of the children, the club members, of course consulting with their teachers to be able to see how do they then reinvest their money back into their club activities, because again we also want to inculcate the culture of saving in these children. So basically the key and the key incentive here is giving them an upper hand to make decisions. We are not going to dictate to the children, we're only going to facilitate them to be able to choose what they want to do.
Well, that's well noted. And as a farmer in your own right as well, perhaps take home in terms of the importance of inculcating these skills. You mentioned you went through the 4K clubs, the young farmers in high school, and you definitely got some take-homes from this whole process. From your point of view, how beneficial was it? So for those seated at home and might not relate with the message of kuungana, kufanya, kusaidia Kenya, how important is this in terms of being an agriculture-centered person?
Actually, my background is more of research, a background in biomedical science and technology. But I was able to quickly switch into agriculture as a career because it's something that I did all the time. When I was home for my holidays, it is a very one activity that would add me pocket money to be able to go back to campus and be able to, buy a few things for myself. So I would earn from it. So even when I was choosing, my career, it was very quick. It was very easy for me to be able to relate with agriculture and be able to just, slip it in, and slip back into the agriculture line from a producer and also as a mentor, and now being able to, be in a policy position where you can be able also to contribute in one way or another. So what I would want to say, because I'm a product of mentorship, it takes actually, kind words to be able to propel one to be where they are. So even as the kids, even as we build the capacity to set up these clubs, even having the parents at the very household level, encourage their children, join these clubs is something that we want to make an appeal to the parents to encourage their children to join these clubs. And even anyone interacting with a child, we have no business, killing the spirit of a child, because you might find that this is the child who has the innovation that can be able to unlock something that is quite critical in the sector. So even how we talk to them, even how we encourage them. To be very honest, if you have nothing positive to say, it's better just to keep quiet than, just kill someone's drive and, someone's passion. So the key word here is to, have and encourage parents to, get the kids also engaged in that line. Some of them may actually not end up in the agricultural sector. But what we are saying is through the positive youth development model that you'll find that we'll have very compassionate young doctors of tomorrow, because we also want to build the character, the compassionate nature of these children, the confidence levels. So we are saying this is an important program. They may not end up in production or the agricultural line, but at least we'll have that fulfillment of, we'll have very responsible, compassionate young people, in all the critical sectors in the country. And remember, when we were actually growing up, when we would, from these clubs, the way we were actually taught is we were patriots. We would not answer grown-ups. There's a way we used to relate or be able to address grown-ups. We used to have that form of discipline, and this was instilled through these clubs. From school, we would find our grandparents, as we were walking back home, and would help them carry firewood, would help them carry, jerrycan water, water in their jerrycans. So this is what our society needs. We need to revert back to some of these values, because this is what really made us as people. And then cumulatively, this is what has made us to be who we are today. So some of these clubs bring beautiful memories, not only to me, but also to other senior people in terms of age, because they were part of these clubs, but also, again, being able to remodel them a bit to be able to take care of the modern-day child.
Okay, well noted. Many thanks, Anne Nyaga, right there. Firma in her own right, a policy maker and advocate in agriculture at the county and national level, but most notably the CAS at the Ministry of Agriculture, Livestock, Fisheries and Cooperation. We'll definitely monitor the implementation of the 4K clubs, but as you've heard back at home, it's not just centered on giving the young minds the knowledge in terms of pursuing some of their interested avenues in agriculture, but also giving them values in terms of an all-rounded approach. Many thanks for your time, Anne Nyaga. Allow us to take